What's happening, folks? Back with another reaction, back with some more Spandau Ballet as we continue through Heart Like a Sky, 1989. Thank you again to Phil, as well as to Han Solo, who helped kick off the Spandau journey. And the next track is Windy Town, which is basically self-explanatory. I don't know if this would be a metaphor. I suppose I could see some context for that, the idea of a town where there's always some force, some pressure, some movement in that regard, but it could just be literally the backdrop for a human tale, a windy town in which something is taking place. There are places, by the way, like Chicago, that are called the Windy City. I don't know if I've ever heard Windy Town, but maybe that is a specific reference being made. At the very least, I will try to follow what I can. This is Spandau Ballet. The track is Windy Town, and it's from their 1989 album, Heart Like a Sky. sounds like a train, maybe an elevated rail, which Chicago does have. I don't imagine this is about Chicago, but it's interesting because it does feel like it's referencing people. There was like a baby reference at the beginning and so on, but it feels like it is about the town, but in the context of the people that are there and the emotions they may or may not feel. And I think the overriding question is, when will love blow into this town? When will it, pass through this windy town? So yeah, again, it feels like the context is a physical location, but expressed through the humans and the feelings, emotions, and interactions that they have, and maybe suggesting that currently it's a bit cold, it's a bit impersonal, or a bit inhuman, and wondering when that can change, when, emotion, when love, when heart can express throughout it. Man, now it's my left eye. For like a minute of that video, I was dying. I felt like there was a boulder in my right eye, and now suddenly, like, my left eye activates. What is going on here? But yes, ultimately, I feel like it's poetic, like the phrasing, at least the lines that I caught, they're cleverly crafted, and I think there's a both visual imagery to them, but also I think they are, again, poetically articulated. So there's a representational aspect to it. I'd say also I think Hadley sounds good on the vocals, and he just has a really distinct vocal style. And it's interesting, if you haven't seen over on my Patreon now, I want to say like 3 weeks ago or something, so it would be publicly available, I did a song documentary which is kind of like about the Barricades, or Through the Barricades experience and album overall, but then it was like interviewing them many years later, and they were talking about their history as a band and the problems they had, but then sort of coming back together and finding connections and saying, at least at the time, again, I think like they've since gone their separate ways, but or at least I know Hadley's not involved anymore, but they were basically saying that they wish they could have found this comfort that they had, at least for this period of time, which I think was like the early 2010s, something like that, maybe the late 2000s. But yes, ultimately, it's interesting to get a bit more behind the scenes on the band, which is to say, I've been aware of them and even heard some of their songs from the time I was a kid, but didn't know much of anything about them until more recently. And even as I was going through their catalog, it was still like I was just hearing the music. I didn't, wasn't getting the context the way I was with, say, Duran, where, people started commenting early on about, the different personalities and the way they come together with songs and who does what and so on. So yeah, that was interesting to see, and as I said, it is publicly available on my Patreon if you're interested. But yeah, again, I enjoy the brass, I enjoy those drum flourishes, and there was also like this, and maybe it's, sort of a play on the concept of a windy town, but there were these, windy, atmospheric effects, almost like, wind meets a bit of, thunder crash, it had this very intense climatic type of element to it along the way, which, as I said, I think fits very well with the lyrics and the way they're, in the same way the lyrics are using the concept of an emotion blowing through the town and a wind, so there's a mixture of physical reality with emotional reality. It feels like the Sonics were again mixing a concept with the actual rhythm and sounds of the tune. And yeah, again, I enjoy the brass, I enjoy the drum flourishes, and it just had a nice, danceable groove to it, but also, an emotional atmosphere. So yeah, very fitting, and, again, even without Hadley's voice, I don't think you'd ever mistake this for another group. They really do have a distinct sound, even as, they've evolved and had slightly different stylings over the albums. So yeah, another cool tune from them. Let me know what you think, and I will see you next time. Peace.